The night was quiet, too quiet for the mining moon of Valise 9. Only the soft hum of the oxygen turbines broke the silence as Ethan Cole, a human engineer and ex-soldier, checked the power cells one last time before turning in. The storm outside was fierce. Dust and lightning tore through the sky like claws. His outpost stood alone, surrounded by miles of black desert rock. Ethan was used to loneliness. After the last war, he wanted nothing but silence. No orders, no blood, no screams, just peace. But peace, it seemed, never lasted long. He was halfway to the control room when the ground trembled beneath his feet. A deep rumble echoed through the outpost walls. Then a blinding flash split the sky. He turned toward the window, shielding his eyes. A ball of fire cut across the horizon, spinning out of control, trailing smoke and blue sparks. It wasn't a meteor. Ethan had seen enough crashes to know a ship when he saw one. Not again, he muttered under his breath, grabbing his jacket. The sensors began to beep wildly, detecting the impact 2 kilometers east. Against all reason, he went for his helmet and oxygen pack. The storm outside was deadly, but someone or something might still be alive out there. And despite everything he told himself about staying away from trouble, Ethan still couldn't ignore a distress sign. He opened the airlock and stepped out into the chaos. The wind roared like a living thing, slamming into him as he pushed forward. Dust bit into his visor. He followed the flicker of the crash fire in the distance, each flash lighting the rocks like day. It took him nearly 20 minutes to reach the wreck. What was left of the craft was small, maybe a single pilot vessel. Its silver hull was torn open like paper, metal twisted and glowing with heat. The smell of burnt fuel hung in the air. Ethan moved carefully, scanning for survivors, then he heard it. A faint sound like a whimper. He turned toward the noise, stepping over a broken wing. There, half buried under a torn sheet of silver fabric, was a small figure. At first he thought it was human, a child maybe. But as he knelt down and pulled the blanket aside, his heart froze. The creature lying there was not human. Her skin shimmered faintly, pale blue with a soft glow. Her hair, white as snow, was tangled and streaked with blood. Strange patterns ran along her arms, markings like veins but metallic. Her body was twisted at odd angles. Every limb looked broken. She looked up at him weakly, her eyes large and golden like molten light, and then she whispered, barely able to speak. "Kill me, quickly!" Ethan stared, stunned. Her voice was soft, trembling, but there was no anger in it, only fear. "Hey," he said, kneeling beside her. "Easy, easy. You're hurt. I'm not going to hurt you." She winced, clutching at her chest. "Please, before they find me. Don't let them—" Her voice cracked. Then her body went limp. Ethan froze. Who was they? What was she running from? He checked her pulse. It was faint, but there. Against his better judgment, he lifted her gently. She was lighter than she looked, almost weightless. The strange blanket around her was warm, humming faintly with energy. He wrapped it tighter and started the long walk back through the storm. The wind howled harder now, as if warning him. His oxygen levels dropped with each step. Still, he pushed on. Halfway back, his comm device beeped, a signal. Not his, he looked down. The scanner showed several moving dots closing in on the crash site. Fast. Damn it, he whispered. Whoever they were coming for her. He turned off the beacon and hurried, his boots crunching over the rocky ground. The storm was almost unbearable now. Lightning flashed all around. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, the outpost came into view, a faint metal shape against the dark. Ethan stumbled through the airlock, gasping for breath as the doors sealed behind him. The alien girl was unconscious, still breathing weakly. He laid her on the medbed, the blanket still wrapped around her. The sensors scanned her body and immediately flashed red. Multiple fractures. Internal bleeding. Unknown biology detected. The computer couldn't even identify her species. Ethan frowned. "Who are you, kid?" he whispered. Her breathing hitched, and for a moment her eyes opened again. "Don't let them take me," she murmured, tears glimmering in the corners of her eyes. "They'll make me suffer again." Then she went still. Ethan sat back, heart pounding. The storm raged outside. The scanner continued to beep softly, marking her unstable condition. He looked at her one more time, at the strange metallic lines running under her skin, glowing faintly like stars. Whatever she was, someone wanted her dead. and now she was in his hands. And somewhere deep in his gut, Ethan knew this night was only the beginning. Ethan Cole hadn't seen anything like her, not in all his years as a soldier, nor in the deep space colonies. The alien girl lay motionless on the medical bed, her body covered in strange blue light that pulsed under her skin like living electricity. Every scan flashed error messages. Her bones, or what looked like bones, were shattered in too many places to count. The med unit tried to stabilize her, but it failed again and again. Her body wasn't built like a human's. Some kind of metallic fibers ran through her tissue, connecting bone to muscle. Her blood wasn't red. It shimmered silver blue, glowing softly through the wounds. Ethan stood there, hands trembling slightly. He'd seen wounded soldiers, dying men, broken bodies, but this girl was something else. She wasn't just hurt. She looked made, like someone had built her out of life and machine. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the med unit. Outside, the storm still roared. The outpost shook now and then, dust drifting from the ceiling. Ethan ran a hand over his face and took a breath. "All right, kid," he murmured, "you didn't die in that crash. So don't start now." He injected a stabilizer, guessing at the dosage. It was all guesswork. The machine beeped again, this time steady. Her pulse, weak but holding. Then her eyes opened. Golden light flickered behind her pupils, faint but alive. She looked around in confusion, then pain. When she saw him, she flinched, trying to pull away. "Easy," Ethan said quickly, holding his hands up. "I'm not going to hurt you." Her voice came out broken and dry. "You shouldn't have brought me here," she whispered. "They'll find me." "They always find me," Ethan frowned. "Who's they?" Her lips trembled. "The tribunal. The hunters." She winced as pain shot through her body. Her hands curled tight, trembling. "Please, just end it, please. It's better that way." Ethan froze. No fear in her tone now, only a strange kind of acceptance, like someone who had begged for death before. He shook his head. "No, you're alive. That means we fight. Whoever they are, they're not taking you." But she wasn't listening anymore. Her body shook with pain. The machines beeped faster. Ethan rushed to adjust the oxygen flow. Then suddenly the air around her shimmered. Tiny sparks crawled across her skin like lightning. The med unit went dark, the lights flickering out. "What the hell?" Ethan muttered. The alien girl gasped and the implants in her body started to move, metal fibers twisting under her skin, pulling bones back into place. It was horrifying and beautiful all at once. Ethan stepped back, watching in disbelief as her body repaired itself. The sound of bones cracking filled the room. Her breathing quickened, then slowed. When the lights came back on, the scans showed massive internal change. "Regeneration detected," the computer said flatly. "Unknown energy source." Ethan stared at her. Her wounds were closing. The glow of her skin faded, leaving only faint scars where her flesh had torn. He whispered to himself, "You're healing yourself." "How?" The girl opened her eyes again. She was still pale, still trembling, but her gaze was clearer now. "You shouldn't have done this," she said softly. "They'll kill you for helping me." Ethan leaned closer. "Then you better start talking." "Who are you?" She hesitated. Her fingers gripped the blanket tightly. "I was made," she said. "Not born. I escaped them. They want me back." Before he could ask more, an alarm echoed through the outpost. Ethan turned to the screen. Movement outside. 6 life forms, approaching fast. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. "They," he whispered. The girl's golden eyes widened. "You have to hide me," she said suddenly. "Oh, please. They'll sense me. They can smell my energy." Ethan grabbed his rifle and looked toward the security feed. Strange shadows moved through the storm, tall, armored figures glowing faintly silver. Their steps were heavy, organized. Hunters, just like she said. He turned back to her. "You can't even walk." "Then leave me," she said, trembling. "If they find me here, you'll die too." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. She was terrified, shaking, but her eyes, those strange bright eyes, were still filled with something he recognized. Hopelessness. The same kind he'd seen in war. The kind that once lived in him. He gritted his teeth. "No one dies here tonight," he said. "Not you. Not me." Before she could protest, he lifted her carefully, wrapping her again in the strange silver blanket that still pulsed with faint warmth. He carried her to the maintenance room and hid her inside the old storage compartment, shielding it with lead plating to block scanners. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed outside. The door sensors flickered red. Ethan took a deep breath, gripping his rifle. "Whoever you are," he muttered under his breath. "You picked the wrong outpost." As the first shadow fell across the window, lightning flashed again, illuminating their faces, their armor marked with symbols that didn't belong to any known alien race. And at that moment, Ethan realized this wasn't just a rescue, he'd just started a war. The outpost lights dimmed as the storm outside reached its peak. Thunder rolled across the barren land, shaking the steel walls. Inside, Ethan Cole watched the monitors in silence. The armored figures had stopped moving. They were out there, waiting. He didn't know who they were or what they wanted. But he knew one thing: they weren't human, and they were searching for the girl. He looked back toward the maintenance room where she lay hidden. Every few seconds he thought he could hear her breathing. Shallow, uneven. He wanted to check on her, but the scanners kept pinging movement. The storm was hiding their signals, but not for long. He turned off the main power grid to reduce heat signatures. The outpost fell into a ghostly half-darkness, lit only by the glow of the emergency lights. Then, footsteps, slow, heavy, metallic. They were inside. Ethan crouched behind a support pillar, gripping his pulse rifle. His heart thudded loud enough to drown the wind. Through the narrow window of the corridor, he saw one of them pass by, tall, armored, with a strange blue glow under its mask. It paused, turned its head, scanned the room. Ethan held his breath. After a tense moment, the figure moved on. He waited, then slipped toward the storage door. The girl was still lying there, half conscious, the silver blanket pulled around her, her golden eyes open the moment he approached. She looked terrified, but she didn't scream. "They're here," she whispered. "I know," he said quietly. "You need to stay still. Don't make a sound." Her body trembled. "They can sense fear," she said softly. "It has a frequency. If I lose control, they'll find me." Ethan frowned. "Then don't lose it," he said, forcing a small, tense smile. For a moment she almost smiled back, but it faded quickly. Then, something unexpected happened. Her hand reached out weakly, touching his arm. In that instant, a flood of images flashed through his mind. He saw stars, thousands of them rushing past. He saw a massive station surrounded by fire. He saw her younger, wearing a silver uniform, standing before tall, robed beings. They looked down at her like she was a mistake. Then pain. Screaming. Machines tearing through bone and flesh. And a voice echoing, "You were not meant to exist." Ethan gasped and pulled his arm back. The vision vanished. His breathing was ragged. What was that?" he said. She stared at him, her eyes full of sorrow. "A memory," she whispered. "I didn't mean to show you. It happens when I'm weak." Ethan swallowed hard. "They did that to you?" She nodded slowly. "They made me to test human design. I wasn't supposed to feel. I wasn't supposed to think for myself. But I did. So they called me dangerous." He stared at her, stunned. The Galactic Tribunal, the name she'd spoken before, wasn't just some alien council. They ruled most of known space, enforcing laws even humans feared to break. If they wanted her dead, there had to be a reason. Ethan took a deep breath. "You're safe now. I won't let them take you." She looked at him, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You don't understand," she said softly. "If they find me, they'll erase this whole place. Everyone here. You can't save me." "Watch me try," Ethan said. Before she could respond, the sensors beeped again. One of the armored figures was approaching fast, directly toward their room. Ethan cursed under his breath. "Stay quiet." He switched the lights off completely and aimed his rifle at the door. The footsteps grew louder. The air felt thick, electric. The handle twitched. A small hum filled the air as the door lock began to melt under a plasma torch. Ethan didn't wait. He grabbed a flash grenade, pulled the pin, and threw it. The explosion filled the corridor with blinding light. The armored hunter roared, a deep, unnatural sound. Ethan fired 3 shots, each one sparking against the creature's armor. The impact barely slowed it down. He aimed for the visor and fired again. This time the blast cracked the mask open, revealing not a face but a tangle of glowing wires and veins. The creature stumbled back, collapsing against the wall. Ethan turned to the girl. "We're leaving now." She shook her head weakly. "You can't run. There are more." He looked out the window. She was right. In the distance, 5 more figures approached through the storm, their armor gleaming in the lightning. "Then we don't run," Ethan said. "We make them think we're already gone." He started pulling power cells from the backup generators, setting them along the entry hall. The girl watched, confused. "What are you doing?" "Something loud," Ethan said grimly. "Something they'll remember." She stared at him, eyes filled with something new. Respect. Maybe hope. Her voice trembled as she said, "You shouldn't risk your life for me." Ethan looked back at her. "You showed me what they did to you. No one deserves that, and no one's dying here except the ones who try to hurt you." Outside, the hunters drew closer. Inside, the faint blue light from the girl's skin reflected in Ethan's eyes. He didn't know it yet, but in that moment, a bond stronger than fear was forming between a human soldier and an outcast child of the stars, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The storm outside had finally begun to fade, leaving behind a dull, endless silence. Inside the small outpost, smoke from the earlier blast hung in the air, curling slowly toward the cracked ceiling lights. Ethan Cole sat on the floor, rifle across his knees, staring at the alien girl lying unconscious nearby. They'd survived for now. The attack had stopped as suddenly as it began. The armored hunters had pulled back into the storm, their silhouettes fading into the night like ghosts. But Ethan knew it wasn't over. They'd be back. He turned to the girl, still wrapped in the silver blanket that had covered her since the crash. The fabric shimmered faintly under the dim light, alive with tiny moving lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan frowned. He'd seen self-healing material before, but nothing like this. Every time he touched it, it hummed, responding like it was aware of him. He hesitated, then reached out and gently lifted one corner of it. What he saw underneath made his breath catch. Her body, though mostly healed from before, was not normal. Lines of glowing silver metal ran along her spine, spreading out into her arms and legs like roots. Small mechanical plates had fused with her bones, moving slightly under the skin, as if adjusting themselves. Ethan felt his stomach twist. It was as though she had been built, not born. A living creature turned into a machine. He whispered to himself, "What did they do to you?" As if hearing his voice, the girl stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open and those golden eyes looked straight at him. For a moment she seemed frightened, but then she noticed his expression, full of shock, not disgust. "You saw it, didn't you?" she said softly. Ethan nodded. "I didn't mean to invade your privacy. I just needed to make sure you were okay." She gave a faint, sad smile. "No one ever looked at me that way before." Then she turned her head slightly, staring at the blanket. "You're wondering about that too." He nodded again. "Yeah, what is it?" "It's not just fabric." She touched the edge of it gently. The material glowed brighter under her fingers. "It's called a preserver. It's alive in a way. It keeps what it touches alive, too." She paused. "When they made me, they gave me this as a cage. If I tried to leave my pod without it, my body would start breaking down." Ethan blinked. "You mean this blanket is keeping you alive?" She nodded. "It's bonded to my system. It can repair cells and metal, but only while I'm inside it. That's why I didn't die in the crash." Ethan looked at her, amazed. "You're like a miracle of science." Her eyes darkened. "A miracle?" "No, a mistake." The way she said it made his chest tighten. He leaned closer, his tone gentle. "You called them the tribunal, right?" "The ones who made you?" She shook her head. "No, they didn't make me. They took me. I was made by your kind." Ethan froze. "Humans?" Her voice trembled as she nodded. "Long ago, before I was born, your scientists tried to build something that could survive anywhere. Vacuum, radiation, disease. They used alien DNA to make it possible. I was part of the experiment." Ethan's heart sank. "That's impossible. The Alliance banned human hybrid projects 100 years ago." She looked at him sadly. "Not all humans follow laws." Silence filled the room. The faint hum of the preserver was the only sound. Ethan leaned back, trying to process it. The Galactic Tribunal wasn't hunting her because she was dangerous. They were hunting her because she proved humanity had broken the oldest law in the galaxy: no cross-species creation. He rubbed his face. "So they want to erase the evidence?" "Meaning you," she nodded. "Yes, they erased everyone else who was part of the project. I escaped because one of the scientists helped me run away. He said humanity wasn't all cruel. He said someday I'd meet someone who'd prove him right. Her eyes met his. Maybe he meant you. Ethan looked away, not knowing what to say. His hands were trembling slightly. He had fought in wars for ideals, for orders, for leaders, but never for something this pure. A life that shouldn't exist, begging for a chance to live. The girl whispered, "If they find me again, they'll kill us both. You should let me go before it's too late." Ethan stood slowly. "You don't get it, do you?" She blinked, confused. He smiled faintly. "You're the first proof that humans and others can become something more. You're not a mistake. You're evolution, and I'm not letting evolution die on my watch." Her eyes softened, glowing faintly in the dim light. "You're going to get yourself killed." "Maybe," he said, checking his rifle. "But at least I'll die for something worth saving." Outside, a faint rumble echoed across the desert. The hunters had returned. The girl pulled the preserver closer around her as if sensing it too. Ethan looked toward the door, calm but ready. The night was far from over, and as lightning split the sky again, he realized that saving her might not just be about protecting one life. It might change the fate of every world that still dared to call itself human. The night sky of Valis 9 glowed red as thunder rolled across the horizon. The storm had ended, but something far worse was coming. Ethan Cole stood by the observation window staring at the empty desert. The scanners picked up movement again. 6 ships, low orbit, moving fast. Their signatures didn't match any known patrol or trade vessels. These were war machines. He turned to the alien girl sitting near the generator room. The silver blanket, the preserver, still shimmered faintly around her shoulders, casting soft blue light over her face. She looked fragile, yet somehow stronger than before. "They found us," Ethan said quietly. The girl's golden eyes lifted to him, and fear filled them instantly. "The tribunal doesn't send warnings," she whispered. "If they've sent hunters, they won't stop until everything here is gone." Ethan checked the control screen. The 6 ships spread out, forming a circular pattern around the outpost. A blockade. They were trapping him and her inside a kill zone. He rubbed his jaw, thinking fast. "If I overload the fuel cells, I can scramble the heat readings. It might buy us a few hours." She shook her head. "You can't hide from them. They can read life signatures. They can even trace my molecular imprint," Ethan frowned. "Then we'll make them think you're already dead." The girl blinked. "How?" He looked toward the broken corridor where one of the hunters had fallen earlier. Its armor still lay in pieces, humming faintly. "By giving them a body." 2 hours later, smoke rose from a fake burial pit near the crash site. Ethan had placed the hunter's shattered armor there, filled with fragments of her silver blanket. The scanners would read it as her remains. Back inside, he stood over the console, waiting. The radar flickered once, then twice. Then the ships began to move away. "They took the bait," he said softly. The girl exhaled shakily, clutching the preserver closer. "You're good at this," she said. He smiled faintly. "Old habits. I used to fight pirates on Mars Belt. Trickery was half the job." But his smile faded when he saw her expression. She wasn't relieved, just sad. "They'll find out," she said quietly. "When they do, they'll burn this moon." Ethan walked over and crouched beside her. "You're still thinking like prey," he said. "Maybe it's time to stop running." Her golden eyes looked up at him. "And do what? Fight the galaxy? If that's what it takes." She stared at him for a long time, like she was searching for something in his face. Then, for the first time since he'd found her, she smiled. A small, broken smile that still managed to glow. "Humans," she whispered. "You're all the same. Always ready to fight for something impossible." Ethan chuckled softly. "That's what keeps us alive." Hours passed. The scanners went quiet, but Ethan didn't rest. He set up extra defenses, rerouted the outpost's power grid, and reinforced the blast doors. The girl watched him work in silence, her body wrapped in the preserver. Finally, he sat down beside her, exhausted. "If what you said is true, if humans made you, then there must be records somewhere. Names, files, coordinates. We could find who did this to you." She looked down, her hands trembling slightly. "And then what? Make them apologize?" Ethan leaned back, sighing. "No, make them answer for it." Her voice softened. "You don't understand what the tribunal does to rule breakers. They erase entire species to keep peace. If they think humans broke their laws again, they'll destroy your worlds." Ethan stared at her. Then maybe they've been ruling too long. Before she could respond, an explosion ripped through the air. The floor shook violently. Sirens wailed. Ethan jumped to his feet and ran to the console. The scanners lit up red. One of the ships was still here. It had fired a plasma strike straight into the valley. Dust and heat poured in as part of the outer wall collapsed. The girl screamed as sparks rained down. Ethan shielded her with his body, dragging her to cover. He looked through the smoke and saw the ship hovering low, engines glowing like fire. A voice echoed from its speakers, cold, mechanical, full of authority. Unit 9A detected. Illegal biological construct. Termination in progress. The girl clutched Ethan's arm. They know, she cried. They know I'm alive. Ethan grabbed his rifle, eyes hard. Then let's show them what being human really means. He opened the emergency weapons locker, pulling out 2 pulse launchers and a power shield. The girl hesitated, then stood beside him, her hands glowing faintly with the preserver's light. What are you doing? He asked. Her voice was quiet but steady. I'm done running. As the ship's searchlights cut through the smoke, Ethan and the alien girl stood shoulder to shoulder. One human, one hybrid. Both trapped on a dying moon. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but not out of hope. Ethan smirked. You ready? She looked at him, the glow in her eyes brighter now. I was made for war, she said. But for once I want to fight for life. Outside, the sky split with another explosion. The galactic hunt had begun, and this time the prey was fighting back. The sun of Valis 9 rose behind a haze of dust and smoke. The outpost was half destroyed, its walls scorched, its roof cracked open to the cold morning air. Ethan Cole stood among the ruins, his armor burnt, his hands shaking. He had survived the night. Barely. The attack had lasted for hours, beams of blue fire cutting through the sand, explosions lighting the sky like stars going to war. The galactic hunters had finally retreated, leaving silence behind. But Ethan knew that silence wouldn't last. He turned to where the alien girl, Elira, sat by the broken console. She looked pale, her silver blanket wrapped tightly around her. The light in her skin flickered weakly as though fading. You need rest, Ethan said quietly. Elira shook her head. No time, they'll come again with more ships. We have to leave this moon, Ethan sighed. And go where? Every port is under tribunal control. They'll scan us before we even touch the ground. She looked at him, her golden eyes dimming. Then maybe you should go. Leave me here. You don't understand what I am. Ethan crouched beside her. Then make me understand. For a long moment she said nothing. Her fingers ran slowly over the blanket's glowing threads. Then she whispered, You think I'm just a hybrid. But I'm more than that. I was the last test of an old human dream. A dream that was supposed to unite 2 worlds. He frowned. What dream? Elira looked up. Project EOS. The first human attempt to merge consciousness, human logic with alien empathy. They wanted to create beings who could bridge species, end wars before they began. My human creator believed if both sides shared one heart, they'd never fight again. Ethan blinked, and the tribunal destroyed it. Her voice trembled. They called it corruption. They said humans were trying to play gods. She paused, her expression darkening. But the worst part? The tribunal didn't find the project on their own. Someone told them. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Someone from Earth? Elira nodded slowly. Yes, a human scientist, one of the creators, betrayed the rest. He gave the tribunal the data in exchange for power and protection. His name was Dr. Valion. Ethan's face went cold. He knew that name. Everyone in the old war divisions did. Valion had designed half the weapons that wiped out the Martian colonies. A genius without a conscience. He's still alive, Elira said softly. The tribunal kept him. He helps them hunt the things he made. Ethan's fists clenched. So he's the reason they're after you. Her eyes shimmered. He made me, Ethan. I was his masterpiece. His bridge between minds. But when I began to think on my own, he called me broken. He wanted to erase me. Her voice broke. So I ran. The room went quiet. Ethan's thoughts swirled like dust in the wind. He finally understood. Elira wasn't just evidence of humanity's crime. She was the key to it, the living proof that humans had defied the stars, and maybe something more. He stood, pacing. If what you're saying is true, then Valion's still helping the tribunal hunt others like you. Maybe even building new ones. Elira looked up in alarm. There were others before me. They were destroyed. Maybe not all, Ethan said. If he kept you alive this long, there's a reason. Maybe he needs something from you. She hesitated. My core, she whispered. It holds data, genetic code from both species. He used me to test something called the neural gate. It connects one mind to another. Ethan's heart skipped. Wait, you mean you can link thoughts? That's how I saw your memories. Elira nodded. Yes, but the gate isn't just in me. It's in the Tribunal's network now. If Valiant controls it, he controls everyone. Ethan felt a chill. Mind control? Not exactly, she said softly. He can rewrite memories, change loyalties, erase guilt. He can make whole worlds forget what humanity did. He stared at her, realization dawning. That's why they're afraid of you. You could expose the truth. Her eyes glistened. And that's why they'll never stop hunting me. For a long time, neither spoke. The wind whistled through the cracks in the roof, carrying the faint sound of thunder far away. Finally, Ethan said, Then we don't run anymore. We go to them. Elira looked up sharply. What? We find Valiant, Ethan said. If he started this, he can end it. Maybe there's a way to shut down the Tribunal's gate for good. She shook her head. That's suicide. Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah, but so is waiting here. Elira hesitated, then looked into his eyes. For the first time, there was no fear, only trust. You'd really do that? Go against your own kind. He shrugged. If my kind built monsters, then it's time we take them apart. Outside, the sky darkened again, shadows of ships moving like vultures in orbit. Elira stood, wrapping the preserver tighter. Then we move fast, she said. Before they erase us both. Ethan grabbed his rifle, checked the power cells, and nodded. Then let's give the galaxy something it can't forget. As they stepped out into the burning dawn, 2 fugitives against an empire, Elira whispered under her breath. Maybe this is what I was made for. And Ethan, hearing her words, smiled grimly. Then let's make sure your creator sees what his mistake became. The hunt wasn't over. It was just turning into a rebellion. The sun of Valis 9 sank low on the horizon, painting the wasteland in golden ash. The wind carried the smell of burned metal and dust, reminders of the battles that had already scarred the moon. Ethan, Cole, and Elira stood at the edge of the canyon, watching the faint glow of ships descending in the distance. Tribunal forces, hundreds of them. They're not sending hunters anymore, Ethan said quietly. They're sending an army. Elira's golden eyes shimmered in the dim light. They want to make sure there's nothing left of us. Ethan checked the power gauge on his rifle, half charge. He had maybe 10 shots left. The shield generator was damaged. The comms were down and the oxygen filters were running low. This was the end of the line. He looked at Elira. Her preserver shimmered faintly, weaker than before. She was trembling, though she tried to hide it. You don't have to stay, he said softly. You can still run. Maybe they'll overlook one escape pod. Elira shook her head. No. If I run now, they'll keep hunting every world that hides me. If I stay, maybe they stop here. Ethan gave a small smile. Spoken like a soldier. She looked at him sadly. Spoken like a human. They retreated into the remains of the outpost, broken walls, flickering lights, silence. Ethan began placing power cells along the hallways, connecting them to the generator. Elira watched him work. You're building a trap, he nodded. When they break through the main gate, the overload will fry everything within a mile. Including us, her face went pale. Ethan. He looked up at her. You said your creator used your mind to build something called the neural gate, right? She hesitated. Yes, it's inside the Tribunal's network now. Then we need to make sure it dies with us. Her voice shook. You mean, destroy it completely? He nodded. If that thing can control thoughts, it's already a weapon worse than war. If it spreads, no one will ever think freely again. Elira stared at him, tears glimmering in her golden eyes. If you do that, the explosion will destroy you too. Ethan smiled faintly. Then I guess I'll be free too. She looked away, her hands tightening on the preserver. You humans. You destroy yourselves to save others. I never understood that. Ethan leaned closer, his tone soft. It's not about destruction. It's about choice. We choose what kind of ending we want. That's what makes us human. The first blast hit the outpost door. Metal screamed, sparks showered the floor. Tribunal troops advanced. Tall figures in armor glowing blue, weapons humming with energy. Ethan took position near the central console. Elira knelt beside the generator, connecting her neural link to it. The preserver pulsed as data streamed through her veins. "They're trying to break the system," she said through gritted teeth. "I can feel them in my mind." "Hold on," Ethan shouted over the growing noise. "You can do this." The door exploded inward. Light flooded the room. Ethan opened fire. The first wave fell, but more poured in. Bolts of plasma tore through the walls. Elira screamed, the neural gate inside her activating. She saw flashes of the tribunal network. Billions of minds linked, cold and empty, all bowing to one voice. Valion. "Ethan," she cried. "He's here. He's controlling them." Ethan turned just as a hologram flickered to life before them. Dr. Valion, older now, his sharp face framed by silver hair. His voice was calm, cruel. "My creation," he said to Elira. "You should never have run. You were meant to serve." Elira's eyes blazed. "You used me!" "You made me suffer. Suffering built you," he replied. "And now you'll finish my work." The signal surged, forcing her to her knees. Ethan ran to her side, grabbing her shoulders. "Fight it." "You're stronger than him." Her body shook violently. The neural gate inside her pulsed with light. Valion's voice echoed in her head. "Submit. You are not alive. You are code." "No," she whispered. "I am not your code." With a scream, she pushed the energy outward. The lights shattered. The floor cracked beneath them. Valion's hologram flickered wildly as the connection burned. Ethan's console flashed red. The overload was ready. He looked at her. "Elira, it's now or never." She met his eyes, fear and fire mixed together. "Will it hurt?" He smiled softly. Only for a second. Together they pressed the final command. The generator roared, brighter than the sun. Energy surged through the outpost, tearing through every wire, every wall, every memory of the neural gate. The last thing Ethan heard was Elira's voice in his mind, soft, peaceful. "Thank you for showing me what it means to live." The explosion swallowed them both. Days later, tribunal ships scanned the surface of Valis 9. Nothing remained but ash and silence. No life signs, no energy traces, and yet, somewhere in the wreckage, a faint blue spark flickered inside a shard of silver fabric. It pulsed once, twice, then steadied. Far away in the cold darkness between stars, a whisper echoed through the galactic network. "We are not code. We are alive." The tribunal trembled, and across the stars the legend began, of a human who defied an empire, and a girl who wasn't supposed to live, but did.